What is happening, Blades? And welcome to a very busy Blades Ramble. What is going on here? I don't know how we're going to get on. Look at this. It just feels claustrophobic. I feel like I've not got the space to move around and vent like I normally would. But welcome everybody to the Blades Ramble. Please be kind to my Ramblers who have been kind enough to join me tonight. It's a lot of their first time on screen, but they are huge supporters of the channel, and I am massively grateful for all of you, for all your contributions and just help that you give me along the way. I don't just mean the support that you physically give. I mean, I'm always, as you'll know, you'll be able to vouch for. I'm bouncing ideas off you in the group all the time. And what do you think to this? What do you think to that? There was even fair to say a little bit of spicy chat today in the group chat with some people thinking this wasn't the subject to talk about. But I feel this is what's on a lot of people's minds at the minute. I feel like some people are Hecky in, some people are Hecky out, some people are Jimmy, what are you talking about? Some people are, if Hecky's going to be out, Wilder's got to come in. Some people are, I want Hecky out, but I don't want Wilder anywhere near us either. So we're here to get it all flushed out tonight. So I've no idea how I'm going to sort of format it. I want to get everybody included. I want people in the comments to come in with their questions or sort of let us know whether you're agreeing with individuals' points or whatever it might be. We're going to try as best to not make it a free-for-all. But, you know, we're just going to go with flow because we try new things on this channel, don't we? So, again, thanks to everybody for joining us. And thank you, lads, for joining us tonight. I'm just going to go around as I can see you here. I don't know if everybody can see me the same way, but I've got Ramble and Mike first up next to my beautiful face here. So, Mike, 8-0. 8-0, mate. Now, that is where I'm starting. Nobody wants us to talk about it. Nobody wants to think about it. We're not over it. It'll take some, which everyone's trying to forget about it. But this is part of my whole reasoning for, I think we need a change, personally. I don't see how you recover from that. I know we were very close in other games, but we've still not got over that line. And then we've been absolutely tonked. How do you recover from that? And what would you say in terms of Hecky's future? Would you stick with Hecky, or do you think it's time for a change as well?
For me, straight after the game, I was Hecky out straight away. Hecky out. You don't know what he's doing. I think a lot of people were like that. I think some people have stayed with that theme, yourself included, Jim. But I slept on it, and I've just thought, he's got to be given the chance to sort this out. He's got to be given the chance. And I think 4 games, like you say, is a little bit generous. I think the Fulham game has got a target is to get them first 3 points. Because I can't see 3 points against West Ham away. Fulham has got to go for them 3 points. If you don't get them 3 points, then I'm sort of in the same boat as you of, all right, it's time to change. I don't necessarily think Wilder is the right man. I know it'll split opinions and people, but
yeah, it will.
I just think
it does. Yeah, it does already. But
you know, my opinion is he down tools. He abandoned us when we needed him the most. He took his 4 million or however much it was, and off he went into the sunset. He might have changed. He might be a better manager now, but we don't know that. And so for me, just give Hecky that chance to sort it out. If he does not pick up 3 points against Fulham, then I'm probably going to be very much in the bandwagon of right. He needs to go.
So 2 matches. Is that it?
You've got to target the Fulham game, though, haven't you? Because straight after that, you've got Man United at home, Arsenal away. We've got Wolves at home. I can't see anything coming at West Ham, not with how they're going at the minute.
So you are writing off the West Ham game potentially. I get what you obviously you want a performance, and we want to try and get something. Yeah. If we get turned over at West Ham, you're still happy for Hecky to be in charge going into.
Oh, don't get me wrong. If we get turned over 4-5-0, then yeah, I'll probably think different. But if we're in the game like we have been at Tottenham and at City, then it's hard to describe how I'm sort of
It's tough,
thinking
isn't it,
it
mate?
over
And
in my head.
listen, and I think a lot of us, I'm not clearly, but I think a lot of people are still undecided and could go either way. And I don't know whether this chat of us all getting together and all having different opinions and different levels of opinion will sort of give other people food for thought. I know Josh said something I'd said last night on a different podcast, made him think a little bit differently about things. Josh, what's your thoughts, mate, on what Mike's had to say? Do you agree? Do you disagree with Hecky and all that?
I agree to a certain extent. I think, in my eyes, one more game. But it depends on how it goes. If we narrowly lose 1-0, then maybe another game, see how it goes. But I can't, after your comments like what you said, I can't see it. I can't see the mentality. Chris Wilder, for me, at half time, if they come out and make a go at it, that's what they do with under Wilder. They didn't do that under Hecky. What's going to change? What can he say in this week that he can't say at half time to get him to? To me, it can't. I don't know. He's not riling him up. He's not got that passion that Wilder had. And not that I'm saying that Wilder's the answer to everything, but if someone can rile that team up, it's him.
Anybody disagree with that?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, he's here, Steve. Come on then, son. What have we got?
And I hadn't actually thought about that. To me, the whole Chris Wilder thing, I love what he did for the club. And some of my best memories just being at Bramall Lane with Chris Wilder. That Aston Villa game, no one mentions this as their favourite game, but that Aston Villa game where we beat them 4-1, we were 3-0 up. I remember, because I live in Edinburgh and I used to stay at the Copthorne when I came down. And Mark Duffy and Jack O'Connell were at the reception and they both scored that day. And I thought, this is going to be amazing. But the one thing about Wilder that I think isn't being mentioned is that his success was based on this snapshot in time where you had this tactic that he did in League One that was then practiced week in, week out for 4 years in a row. We had no injuries then. Now, I think I mentioned this in the Ramblers group, apologies YouTube if you're not on it, but I don't know if this is true or not, but I live in Edinburgh. There's a lot of Hibs fans here. Hecky managed Hibs, and there was a lot of injuries when he managed them as well. And with a philosophy like outrun, outfight, outplay, there is an implied intensity to that. And I do sometimes wonder if Hecky's training them too hard. And my job's all about training, so I'm really interested in that element of it. But with Wilder, if he comes back, he's not had that 4 years of a tactic. He tried it at Middlesbrough and he tried it at Watford, and it hasn't really worked. I just don't think we're good enough, and I don't think we need another emotional head that as soon as we lose... Listen, Wilder's emotion was amazing when we were backs against the wall in that first season, but then Wilder's emotion worked against us in that second season. So I don't know if I disagree with the emotional point of that.
You could argue that Hecky is going off of Wilder's foundation that he built in that 4 seasons with Wilder. Let's talk the same very similar system and all. He does. Do you know what I mean?
But let's talk Wilder's tactic through with the team we've got right now. Because let's say you have a Nell or Austin Trusty, and they're moving forward, and Norwood drops back because he knows how to play the system and ping those balls. Sousa doesn't know it yet. Do you imagine that then, what is it? It's a 2 at the back with that holding midfield. Do you think they're going to be going against Erling Haaland, Alvarez, Grealish, Son?
I'm trying so hard to bite my tongue because although I love to ramble on and I've obviously got my own opinion, I'm trying my best to let you boys have your say without me chipping in because nobody wants to hear about me. I want to hear what you guys are saying because you represent the fan base, as do I, obviously, but everybody knows what I think. So,
do you think? Sorry, Jimmy. Do you think Wilder's tactics would suit the team we have right now?
I think.
I do.
If you go to a cookie cutter, it must be the style that we played in League One Championship. Then I don't think it necessarily fits. We've got the players, because we've recruited to the same formation. The formation is different to the tactics. So, but I think Wilder's cute enough to utilise the players that he's got for the same formation, but playing a different way. And that's what Hecky does. I don't think Hecky's ripped off Wilder. I think Hecky has twigged that Slav tried to play defenders that were comfortable in a 3-5-2 as a back four, which doesn't work for the players that we've brought in. And listen, I think a lot of our players are on the wane at the minute. John Egan, I include in that, which is, it's unfortunate to say, but he's not looked very good this season. But I think we're a 3-5-2 club that's recruited for that formation. Never mind the tactic. The tactics are different for me in terms of Anel is not an overlapping centre-back. I'd say he's an underlapping centre-back, but he hasn't got forward much because we're in the Premier League. Yeah. So it's also Jack Robinson will never overlap, not even the Championship, never mind this league, but he's a defender, which is, I think, why he started so solidly, because he's faced what's been in front of him rather than being expected to go forward. I think he were very poor other night, but who wasn't? So, Dave, I watched you nodding and shaking your head at certain points when Steve were talking and nodding and then sort of agreeing with bits and maybe not. What's your thoughts at the minute on the current situation, pal?
Going back to the first question, I think this weekend's just massive.
Agreed.
The reaction, I don't even think it's necessarily just about the result, but I think I don't even think we can take losing a close 1-0. I think we've got to show more than that. We've got to show a reaction that means that we're going to show a chance of staying in the league, and if we're not, then we need to make sure that we're taking the time, which I hope the club's doing at the minute anyway, to find the right replacement, be it Wilder or whoever else is out there and interested, because I think that's the challenge as well. I think it was clear when Hecky got the job this time. They said that they were building the club around this formation that Wilder had originally set up. The academy was set up to develop players that could play in that system. So we're kind of locked into it, and I don't think we can bring anybody in who's going to rip it up and if it's a 4-4-2 or 4-3-3, we just it's not going to work.
We haven't got the players for it. We haven't got the players, have we?
And there's definitely a bit of better the devil with Wilder. We know what he's about. He knows what we're about. I guess my concern, and this is what my initial reaction was, for us not to make a knee-jerk reaction after the game on Sunday, and just fire him there and then. I think we really need to think about where we're going, but we can't afford to. I wouldn't necessarily wait to the Fulham game. I think it's a bit stick or twist, but it's all based on this weekend. I don't expect us to go out and win 2 or 3-0, but
I think if we lose at West Ham, I think he's gone, and that's not whether I think he should or he shouldn't. That is, I think they'll sack him.
And I would myself, and I'm in a don't sack him camp. But I think if we do, then yeah,
I can't see that happening now. Whether he should be sacked or whether he shouldn't be is different to will he be sacked.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
he's got a massively long contract, and all the Prince wants to do is make sure his club looks financially stable for buyers. I don't know if I can see him. It depends what he contract, but the compensation package is going to be massive. And one of the things
it doesn't look stable to look like we're free falling to relegation, though, does it?
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say, Championship football does not look like a financial, financial package.
I think. Sorry, what my point is that we went up to the Premier League and made a conscious decision not to spend any money and pay our debts off, and therefore to spend millions of pounds on a compensation package. I don't know if it just fits with that long-term objective of making the club financially viable. That's the point.
Is that a real thing, though? I'm sorry. Is that a thing? Is Hecky on this giant contract? Is he actually on a giant contract? That
he was on a 7-year. He was signed to a 7-year contract, wasn't he?
No, a 5-year contract.
5. So he's got 4 years left, has he?
Do you not think he'd potentially think about walking if we get another rash in it this weekend? Though?
Well, that's another thing.
Let's go with that then, Will. And I don't think we'll necessarily. I'd be amazed. I'd have been amazed if you'd have told me 8-0 before the game, obviously. But I'd be amazed if we got thrashed at West Ham. But that doesn't mean we won't lose. So if we lose, Will, do you think there's half a chance that he does walk, or do you think he should walk?
I can't really tell. I think if it's another embarrassing level defeat, I don't think we'll get 8-0, but say sort of 3-4 upwards. I don't think he has any choice but to at that point. I don't think any manager.
I don't think he'll get the choice.
I
don't think he'll get.
No, I don't either.
I don't.
He won't walk. There's no chance of it. No.
Yeah, because
I think
when you look at his previous jobs that he's had, Hibs, he had a bad run with Hibs, Leeds, all them jobs he had sort of bad runs, and he was sort of kicked out the door. He never walked. He's sort of a proud Yorkshireman like that. But
most people won't walk away from a payout, though, will they? If we're being
I don't blame him not walking.
The thing is, do you not think this is Heckingbottom's? Like, this is his big break now. If he can make it in the Premier League now, he's never going to walk away from that, is he? I don't think he will. I don't think there's any chance of it.
I just can't believe he's on wacky money. I don't believe he is on big money.
He's probably not on wacky money. Everyone called him the cheap option money.
But the one thing that came out of the weekend that I saw as a stat was that he's on, is it 51% win rate? And that's over the past nearly 2 seasons with us. So that is one of the best performing managers we've had.
But personally, I think you have to take that into account, right? There's a lot of shout about Hecky earning his stripes and doing the business, and yes, he did. That first season to get us up to the semi-final was massive.
Yeah,
I thought it was brilliant. I thought he turned it around. We had Slav, and back in the day, I never used to think that managers had that big an influence on the team, because if you've got good players, and good managers used to say at Redknapp, Ferguson, it's all about your players, and Jokanovic proved to us that it is about the manager to an extent. Hecky came in. Yes, he did an amazing job, and I thought he did a great job last season. My question to the Hecky bandwagon is, did you reckon that he should be finished? Where do you think he should have finished with that squad that he had? Where do you think, with those players, with Ilman and Dye, with Sander Berg, with the players that we had at the club, experienced Championship, lower Premiership team, where should he have finished then? Because I think he did a great job, and I don't take it away from him. But personally, I think we should have been promoted, because I think the team suggested that we were a promotion side. And yes, he did well, but is that his bulletproof vest for 25 matches?
Completely agree. You look at players
We're
like
talking
John
about last season here.
Go on then.
Yeah, last season.
Yeah, we are. We're talking about last season, right? We got promoted in second. I thought he did a great job. But we had the squad for that, for me, and he did.
We didn't when he first started, because Ilman and Jay hadn't been playing. He wasn't proven. He gave Ilman and Jay his chance, and then he.
I take your point.
Yeah, but he had Gibbs White. He had Morgan Gibbs White instead, and I think they've had very similar trajectories.
Look at that team last year. That is a champion. That is a championship winning / promotion side all day. You're talking about overachieving with the players you've got. Wilder took players from League One to the Premier League and still played them. Same ones. Yeah. And that's overachieving.
I want to let you lads have your say, but I'm so gobby I can't help but hold my own opinion in.
Sorry, Jimmy. Do you think we get all these loanees from the Prem if it wasn't for Hecky?
Yeah, I do.
You do? You don't think? I just look at McAtee and Gibbs White as
Morgan Gibbs White came in under Slav. It was Slav that signed Gibbs White. So, yeah, I do think we could get a similar. I'm not saying personal relationships don't help, but no one can convince me that Chris Wilder don't get us promoted with that squad as well, because I think he does. I think I can give Chris Wilder excuses as to why he didn't work out for him at Middlesbrough. I think Watford are a basket club of a case that it's not worked for anybody that's gone in. I'm not here. If you put Wilder to the side for 1 minute, that squad that Hecky had. And I agree with you, Paul, where he's come in and he's got great momentum to get us up to 5th, and what an achievement. And we only Bryce Sambers' stud kept us from going up that year. Yeah. We then held on to a Premier League squad. Other than Aaron Ramsdale, we held on to a Premier League squad, which is what they were at the time. It's the majority of the squad that came down from Prem. And we went again, and it caused the club all sorts of financial issues to hold on to that squad. But we wanted to go for it. But in the second season, despite that massive financial hit, and we've done it, but we did it with a Premier League squad. I don't think Hecky's the only man. And don't get me wrong, he's faced a load of issues. And he came round to Hecky, and I still think he does a good job in terms of bringing young players through and things like that. But I think he's tactically naive. I think he's found his level, to be honest, and it's not the Premiership. And I think Premiership. I get that off Andy the Blade. I keep
lads,
he
trusts players. Sorry, Jimmy. He trusts players who are clearly not good enough. He trusts
Osborne, Fleck, Robinson. I'm still on the Wes bandwagon.
Wilder were a bit like that, though. To be fair, he liked it. He had his favourites and stuff as well.
He did.
I
think everything you're saying about Hecky, I would have said about Wilder when in that season we were doing really badly. That's exactly all the things I said about Wilder.
But you're pulling him.
I thought he was
on the season that went wrong when nobody were in the ground to get. I think if we're in the ground to pick Wilder up as well, because he can't do it all on his own. My personal opinion is Wilder doesn't tank like he did in terms of. I'm not saying he won't leave, and I'm not saying whatever he did were right in terms of how he left and things like that. He's made loads of mistakes. I'm sure he'd say that himself, but I don't think it ends the way it ended if COVID doesn't happen. And I don't just mean the team wouldn't have underperformed because there's no crowd. I think Wilder doesn't go down and down and down with every bad result because we're there to cheer him on because we're all in it together, and that's what he harnessed. What I want to do at a minute is bring. Go on,
Jimmy. I was going to say with that. One caveat you have to remind is when we were like at Palace when Berg came in, and a couple of games before COVID stopped play, was that we were only just winning. We weren't. We were already starting to go down the other side of the
performances got bad.
Yeah, it was sort of
That's
on
fair.
the card, but not sort of. We were still winning games. We were pushing them across the line.
Could see the drop off though. I don't think nobody could see that extreme drop off. Well, I want to ask Ruben. I want to bring you in, pal, because I know we haven't heard from you yet. If Hecky does go, I firstly want to know whether you would support Hecky going in terms of whether that's sack or not. Whether you think Wilder is the man, but also if we take Wilder out of it, once I know what your answer is to that, who else is there? If Hecky's going to go, is there anyone else that you'd want or consider?
I mean, it's a very good question. I think the
Thank you very much.
In terms of who, in terms of who comes in to replace him, there's names that have been thrown about. You look at them and think realistically, are they going to come in to Sheffield United at the moment? I think I've seen Graham Potter. Names like that, and I think realistically, he's just not going to come in. No. I guess going back to the point about whether I would support Hecky leaving or being removed from his position, I'd echo what some of the boys have just said there. I think the reaction is going to be huge. I think not in terms of the reaction in the media. For me, it's the next two games. We've got West Ham away, we've got Fulham away, and then it's an international break. So I think the international break sort of means that these next two games for me become even more important. If we can, there needs to be a reaction in two different ways. There needs to be a reaction in terms of the performance, but there now has to be a reaction in terms of the results as well.
It has to be immediate.
Yeah, 100%. And I think if we come out of that, and it's unlucky and we've lost 2-1 to West Ham. And then follow it up with something similar against Fulham. I find it really difficult to see a way back for or a way forward, should I say, for Hecky in the post as manager.
I agree. Kane, what's your thoughts on Youngie's point here? It's something that I've mentioned a couple of times in the Ramble. I think Mark Hudson is obviously, for those that don't know in the chat or whoever's watching, Mark Hudson is the defensive coach that Hecky has handpicked to come into United to shore up our defence ahead of the Premier League season. How's that going? So, what's your thoughts, Kane, in terms of the caveat I want to put on this is everybody that's defending Hecky, and look, Hecky's been with us nearly 2 years, done a great job with us, no doubt about it, until obviously this season started poorly. We know Hecky because he's coming out and he's talking to the media and we understand how he works. We've got to know him a little bit as a person and what makes him tick. We don't know Mark Hudson. Do you think people would be so easy to blame Mark Hudson if we knew him? Say it were a Chris Morgan that had come in and we'd started this poorly. Do you think people would still be throwing daggers at Chris Morgan or Jags or Jack O'Connell if they were the ones that were the defensive coach? Do we
Probably
think
not.
Mark Hudson's really the one in the firing line?
I think he's
got to look at himself.
Have we seen any of Mark Hudson at all? Like, I've not seen anything of him.
I think I saw him speaking to Hecky on Sunday afternoon. Believe it or not.
But this is the thing.
He should have told him not to do that.
He comes in. And I saw it only as a positive, but it's a weird one where you think we've got so much worse defensively. However, the step up is massive. The step up in it is massive, right?
Yeah, it is.
And you've got to think there's things in the games where you think against City, Larouci, just clear the ball. That to me, that's not on Hudson at all. That's just a player doing a basic thing. You're told from the bottom where you clear the ball, okay? Against Spurs, Anel, clear the ball. Just clear the ball. We get out with a point there if you just clear the ball. I know there's a lot of things with the added time. I'm not going back into that. That's done now. We've learned from Spurs. We'll all get over it, I think. There's some things that I just think it's the crosses for me. The crosses. We've had Trippier and we've got Ward-Prowse next. Ward-Prowse. No, come on.
What are you doing to us? Why are you saying that? Why are you saying that?
Ward-Prowse.
Trippier was unreal.
Unreal, and now we've got Ward-Prowse. Like, this is going to be such a tough watch if we can't get a hold of these crosses. It's the fact that we've conceded 9, and then the next team bowls is Crystal Palace with 3.
Yeah, from crosses. Yeah.
That boggles my head. I cannot get my head around that.
I think with the Mark Hudson thing and not to see him in, I think that's down to Hecky's style of leadership. He strikes me as someone who takes responsibility and gets out in front of the cameras and says and does the messaging. Unless it's good and he wants Stuart McCall to do that. So I don't think Mark Hudson not being in front of the cameras is relatively because Mark Hudson's a coward. I think it's because of Hecky's leadership.
No, I'm not saying that, pal. What I'm saying is because Hudson's not as well known to the club and is more or less a silent figure, and I'm not saying he shouldn't be anything else, but because we don't know him as well and he's not one of ours, is he the easiest scapegoat to call? Because maybe I get he's a defensive coach and we have conceded boatloads of goals.
Just like it's a coincidence that since he came in, our defending has been appalling.
That's exactly it, though, isn't it? It's not a coincidence. It's clearly surely as well. If we can see it, everyone can see it in fan base. Surely Hecky's seen it, and why is he not acted on it?
Kane makes a good point that it's also a massive step up in level, which we have to be aware of, so that you're more likely to concede, obviously. But having said that, if we are saying that Hudson is at fault, which I'm in that boat, I think Hudson's got to take a lot of responsibility for this. Who appointed Hudson? Who selected him and picked him and said he's the man for the job?
Yeah, I think. Have you seen it? There was on the S2 forum. There was a shots conceded stat. I don't know if you've seen this. 24 shots conceded against Palace, 16 against Forest, 30 against City, 16 against Everton, 28 against Spurs, and 22 against Newcastle. I mean, that would say that the goals conceded compared to the shots conceded, Newcastle game aside, we've done all right defensively.
It's the midfield.
And I don't believe that, but Wes has done his job. He's made the most saves in the Premier League. We've kept a lot of goals out that could have been, and Newcastle has just caned that.
I'm going to bring the man Mountain in himself here. Sorry, Josh. I'll come to you in a minute, mate. But I saw that Paul was saying it's not the defence. What are you going with, Paul? Then?
Well, I'm not saying it's not the defence at all. And
all right, sorry, mate.
I'm a bit on the fence. I'm a bit on the fence with it, but the 9. You're absolutely right about the 9 crosses. To me, I'm not a professional footballer. I play football and I play centre back. And when I look at our centre backs when they're playing, the number of times there's one man in the box tapping a ball in, like the Callum Wilson goal the other night, where it was like nobody within 4 meters of him, and he's got a free header in front of the goalkeeper. And the crosses that come in, you can't coach people to compete. Now, if you're a centre half, part of your game has got to be to put your head in where it hurts, to follow the man who's going to score the goal. And I think that's where our problems lie. You know, that an L at that corner were a joke. The goals that we've conceded from crosses, it's about a willingness to compete and willingness to win the ball. I don't know how as a coach you tell your defenders that if they're marking a man, you've got to win the header. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you improve that as a coach. You've got to have that desire within you to go and win that ball. And like I said, for Sheffield United and John Egan in particular, and Anel Ahmedhodzic, who we thought was going to be the business this year because he looks good when he's on the ball. Maybe he wanted the same pressure in the Championship from strikers who are really clever. You know, we've seen Billy Sharp, who's the best goal scorer we've ever had at our club, score best part of 250 goals in the Football League. And he gets into the Premier League and he can't do it because the defenders are too physical, too strong, too big. He can't find the spaces and he can't get on the end of anything. And I feel like our defenders, even though Egan has done it before for us and done a really good job, they're not really up to the job. And
so what does a new manager do then? Because what does bringing Wilder in achieve?
Well, this brings me on to why. I mean, there's lots of people who said they were pro Hecky in the build up to this, and I was a little bit more leaning towards Wilder. And I was looking at the games thinking, to be fair, Hecky's probably earned the right to play against some of the sides where we're expected to do something. So I was looking at the fixtures and going, he probably deserves to stay until December. And I was the one that was pro Wilder. Do you know what I mean? Because in that time we've got Wolves at home, we've got Bournemouth at home, we've got Fulham, we've got loads of games, Burnley. We've got games that we can win. We can win the matches. We should be in those games. That's where we've got to pick up our points. But if we can't defend crosses and we don't do the basics at the back, we have to think of a change. Now, I don't know why. I don't know what it is with Trusty. I know I dug Jimmy out in the group about this, about forever saying, Trusty, because Jack Robinson was doing a really, really good job. But Trusty needs to be played. I can't believe he stopped on the bench. I can't believe he thinks Basham's a better defender. Someone we bought for £5 million from Arsenal, who was playing for them pre-season, and we're still picking Chris Basham, who I love, who is a legend to me, but he's not good enough.
Who's your back three then, Paul? Who's your back three?
Well, I did float it before. I think
anybody at the minute.
I think Trusty. I think Trusty has to be given an opportunity. I think that's it. I think that has to happen.
We're all in agreement with that.
100%. Yeah.
I think Ahmedhodzic is arguably our best defender, despite what he's been doing recently. And he has to play in the middle, centre half, and he has to display.
I think that.
He's miles off it.
I think in middle.
And I think on the right hand side of it, I'd probably at this point, if I was going to throw a real curvy in, Vinny Sousa in there, who I don't think's fit, or I put George Baldock there, who did a good job for us there before.
Baldock, definitely, yeah.
I'd be a big proponent of Baldock going there, and I have been in the past, but I'm not sure about Bogle at the minute, if I'm honest, at right wing back.
Yeah, so, I agree.
And this is, we identified these at the start of the season. Everyone was saying they're going to attack us down the right because we're weak there with Maxlow and Larouci. And now Chris Basham's playing on that left side. It's so obvious that's where you attack us. And to me, that's not a manager issue. It's a personnel issue. And just bringing it back to Chris Wilder.
I mean, that's
Chris Wilder's got... We haven't. But Chris Wilder, I don't think, is the man, based on his previous signings, to really...
He's not making that issue.
That's where you're right.
You work on the idea, Steve, that we're playing with what we've got. Wilder's a better man motivator in my head. In my head,
exactly.
He's not
anybody. That would not have happened at half time under Wilder. We wouldn't have gone 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That wouldn't have happened.
That's the thing I agree with.
I agree with that in the short-term match sense, which is what we need at the minute. But Hecky picked us up after that horrible season where we were like the worst sports team that had ever played any professional sport by Christmas. And he picked us up at the lowest moment there. So I think you're being a bit dismissive of
Could you not just argue that when Heckingbottom took over at the end of that season, that the change in going from Wilder and it all going wrong for so long, and then that change kicked players back into gear? That may be one.
And if we're willing to go back to when Hecky came in and picked us up, there's no better example of being picked up off the floor than when Wilder first came in. So it depends what argument you want to use for that. Rich, what's your thoughts, mate, on where we are with this? Do you stick with the defence as it is? Do you blame Mark Hudson? What's your thoughts, pal?
I think there is a lot Hudson to be accountable for. We have one of the best defences in the Championship, and it's gone to pot since going up, and we can't defend across. We're almost like Burnley from last season. I agree with a lot of what you lot have just said, but the one thing I would have to caveat is Robinson's probably been our best defender this season by far better than
on performances. Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I never thought of that.
So for dropping him just for Trusty, I can see where people are coming from with that, but then it's like you're telling people, even if you're playing really well, you're going to get dropped because there's a so-called better signing there.
My issue, and I don't think I've always translated this very well, but it's not about, for me, and you should always, I suppose, while players are playing well, give them benefit of the doubt and keep them in the team. But I don't think over the long term, Jack Robinson will prove to be a good Premier League defender. So I still think we need an upgrade there. If we believe Trusty's got the ability to do that, and we feel like we need a change in the side and something to spark us, I think that's one of the easier changes to make, to bring Trusty in. I don't know if anybody agrees, but
I agree. I agree with that. I didn't see how Trusty performed when we played Lincoln in the Cup, but I don't think he pulled up much trees playing them. Fair enough. That's only what
he was solid.
He's young as well.
It's Lincoln. It's a very different style. Exactly. You're not being attacked constantly. You've not got whoever your left back is. It'd be interesting to see, and I think that changing things up will not hurt Heckingbottom in the short term. The question I've got for people who are sort of Hecky out, what would it take for you to change your mind? Because I know what it takes for you to change my mind.
Only Hecky out for Wilder. If you take Wilder out of the scenario and Wilder signs for someone else, I'm no longer Hecky out. It's only.
But what would Hecky have to do? Sorry, if you keep this Hecky based on what Hecky needs to do, what would change your mind?
So Josh, I think Josh is saying if Wilder weren't available, he wouldn't be saying Hecky out. But
I would think Wilder's just a better option.
If we say Sam Allardyce was going to be the next number one, everyone would be like, no, keep that.
5 million quid for 10
games. What if I chuck in a Kieran McKenna at Ipswich? Would anybody be interested in somebody like that coming in? Because for me, and I get we don't all know exactly what's going on, and I don't either. There'll be other managers that can be in the mix, but he's got them automatically promoted. They've gone, and I don't know whether they're top, but they're certainly up there in Championship, and may well do back to back. Young manager, sort of new ideas, brings a whole positive. Listen, I want Wilder, and it's probably similar reasons to Josh, because it's not a massive change for the club. It's somebody who can come in straight away, impact us immediately, knows the club, knows half of the playing staff, and can get an impact immediately, whereas he's not signing anybody. A big criticism of Wilder was his poor transfers in the Premier League, and I would say exactly the same. I agree with that. I didn't think he signed very well, but I think he can galvanise this team, and I think that some of the points that you've touched on, when being a man motivator, is absolutely key to turning this around for me. And how long do you leave it? Some are saying give him next couple of games. Some are saying leave it till December. How long is too long? Because if we don't think Hecky's the man, we have to change it.
What would change your mind though, Jimmy? Because what I'm always conscious of is it's dead easy to come into these and go, here is my opinion, and then what would change your mind? I'm just really interested in that, because it'll give a good idea to, I don't know, what the fan base is feeling and what they need to see, and potentially.
I'll be honest, I would never sure that he were a number one in first place. I've never seen him as a top manager.
What would change your mind, Jimmy?
Having said, I'm not. What I'm saying is, I'm not sure it can be
Massive.
changed
Yeah, I
because
thought that.
he's done a great job with us. He's ridden a wave of momentum, and he's kept us on an even keel when we've been through some really difficult. But that, he's had the players to do that, and now we're finding that as the step up in level, he's handpicked the players that have come in. He's chosen these players. I know we haven't spent a lot of money, but the players that have come in have all been Hecky calls, and I think we're proving that we're not good enough for this level. And it's all right when we're just in games, and I'll always try and be positive. You'll have heard me say it. I want to dust ourselves down and go again. But Sunday was an absolute capitulation, and it shattered my confidence in this team under Hecky. I think we need a drastic change to sort of turn the tide now. So if 8-0 hadn't have happened, if we'd have lost 2-0 to Newcastle, I wouldn't be saying Hecky out. I wouldn't be saying, we need to make a change immediately. It's the shock value of
the emotion
down
of
in
it.
tools. It's the like Paul says here. Sorry to cut you off, Steve, but Paul says here, why is no one discussing the players? And I think it's a really good point because it's not just Hecky. The players down tools on Sunday,
fully,
and that has
100%.
never happened. That has never happened to a United side, and it's embarrassing as a club. I can take being beaten by better players, and when we expect that in this league a lot of time, we'll match them. We'll probably beat most of them for fighting spirit, and that's what will get us as odd few points here and there where we probably shouldn't get them. There were never any danger after the first 15 minutes when they granted got a very lucky first goal, which should have been given on ball. But we can't blame any other goals on anybody but ourselves. Our heads were down at 2-3-0, and we were never coming back. We gave up. And to think, as Sheffield United, do you think Wilder had come out after that game and said, we can expect results like this?
No.
This is to be expected. Wilder would have been out saying,
another big thing as well.
that is an embarrassment to this
reaction.
football club. Yeah, it's an embarrassment to this club. It's an embarrassment to me. It's an embarrassment to Badge. I'm responsible as the manager. I take it on my shoulders. But those players, if I ever see a performance like that again, they will never play for this club again.
If you
And
remember,
as fans, that's what we want. We want to
remember
get it.
Wilder
Hecky do?
always said that you go out the front door rather than the back door. He always used to say that.
And then he went out the back door.
Yeah, I know.
Paul.
I know what you're
Paul,
saying, Rich. But
yeah.
I get that. Paul,
Yeah.
what would change your mind? Because you've been on the fence, but you've sort of articulately put, what would change your mind for Hecky? What does Hecky need to do to change your mind?
I think I wrote down. I had a little, did a little bit of homework, being a teacher as I do.
Top man.
And I looked at the next fixtures. We've got 7 games. West Ham, Fulham, Man United, Arsenal, Wolves, Brighton, Bournemouth and Burnley. 2 of those are at home against Bournemouth and Wolves. I think we need 10 points from those matches for us to start believing, for the players to start believing that he's the man for that job. And that may be wherever they come. Some people, I was like, oh, I'm for Wilder, but some people were saying, oh, I'm for Hecky, but some people are giving him 1 and 2 matches. And I was thinking, it's a little bit unrealistic for me to think that we're going to go West Ham and do the business there and do that. I don't think West Ham are amazing. I don't think it's beyond us with the 11 we've got. And when we drew against Everton, when we nearly got a point against City, nearly a win against Tottenham, why can't we go to West Ham and get something from the match? But the damage that has been done in that to that team by God knows what, that we should not be losing 8-0. We just lost 2-1 to the best team in the world at Man City. We've done that. They've lost 8-0 at home.
I get it.
And I've never, ever in my life as a Blades fan seen that ever. The one thing I say to people, and I have my hat on, is that every game we are in it and we are battling and we tooth and nail and we work harder than the other team if they're better than us. And
I went on a Newcastle fan channel and said, I think we're going to beat you 2-0, but you might have too much for us. Even if you do have too much for us, you certainly won't thrash us. And I'm like, why haven't they clipped it and just embarrassed me all over the internet because they thrashed us?
I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to say at the time because we'd just done so well against so many good teams.
I thought we'd beat them.
No one saw this coming. This was a shock, and that's why I think there's a big gap between what people were saying before that Newcastle game and now. and everybody's flipped on their head because they're emotional. So I just wonder. I just want to know what you need to see.
What's going to change my mind, Steve? What's going to change my mind?
Yeah,
and it can be changed because the raw emotion out of that is if we get to December and we're on 11 points, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and give him. You can extend it. You can keep him in the job because it looks like December looks like Liverpool, Brentford, Chelsea, Villa, Luton, and Man City. Okay. Again, if we get to turn of the year and we're on 18 points, he can crack on for me. Because
and the transfer window, because that will be important because a lot of what we're talking about is personnel issues here.
Yeah, it is.
Do you believe it? Does anybody believe he will? Does anybody believe we'll get anywhere near 20 points by end of the year under Hecky? Anybody?
I think it depends how they come out. I think it depends how they come out. And listen, I will answer the change of mind question in a minute, but I think this will either make or break this season. How they come back from this will be massive. And these people are winners. These people are elite athletes, and if they've got the right mindset, coaching, you let's just see what happens in the next match.
Yeah, and I think that's Steve. What you say there about let's see what happens in the next match. I just think it comes back to exactly the same point again. The next game is huge, and I think that we're saying out of the next 7 games. We possibly need 10 points or something like that to get the confidence back. What will get the confidence back is 3 points in the next game. Stranger things have happened. Nobody thought we would go to Spurs and be 1-0 up in the 98th minute. Nobody thought we'd be even drawing with Man City one each in the 88th minute. And I do just think that is these next 2 games are, this will define. I think the next 2 games will define whether the season, whether we can continue to be competitive and actually start to pick up the results that we need, or
What we need to see as well on at West Ham, we need to see a drastic change in that team. If we come out and we've got Anel, Egan, Robert, we've got the same team out. For me, that's sort of telling me that he hasn't quite learned his lesson.
I agree.
But do you not give them a chance to then make mistakes up?
I wouldn't be surprised if it is the same team, if I'm honest.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I'd also question. Well, look what these lot did for you last time. Look what this team have done.
Well, there's only so many changes we can make with the squad.
Oh yeah, I understand that. I do understand that. But if we even if it's just a little tactical change or just one personnel change or something, we need to see something of a change from that. I can't understand why the first 10 minutes we were in that game, then it went 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, quick succession. And then we just literally fell to pieces. Yeah. What went wrong so bad, so quick?
Maybe the refereeing decisions. Like I've thought about this a lot. Like it must be shit thinking, fucking hell.
Here we go again.
Here we go again. No matter what
here we go again.
Yeah.
And then the heads go. You could see the heads drop.
Yeah, heads drop, but you could see the heads sort of drop a little bit in the games where we just went behind, and it's just how quick and how bad it went.
For me, I think how easily the goals were going in. It looked easy to us, so it must have looked easy. They must be thinking, "What's he doing? What's he doing?" And nothing was just working.
I was sat at Bramall Lane up at here, and every time they come forward, I just put my head in my hands, and you just heard the cheer.
Every time. They looked like they were going to score, didn't they? Right. Okay.
That's character.
What I'm going to do now is, because I think we're all fairly clear, and nobody's ever going to agree 100% on it. But I think everybody's put the point across, and it's been fair. And I think what we're sure of is Hecky's certainly got next game, hasn't he? So what we all want is a clean slate and 3 points. I mean, listen, I take a point at West Ham if I'm honest, and I would have done before the 8-0, and I think a lot of us do now. So I think if we can get a draw at West Ham and then go to Fulham full of life after we've sort of shut them out or wherever it might be, then we've a chance of getting a point. And Hecky's obviously still in the seat then. But what does he have to do now? Does he have to? I know we've sort of mentioned points, tallies, and things like that. But do we need a performance? Are we going to be satisfied by just being in games and only just missing out, or is that?
I think it's got to be a game by game basis now, isn't it? Game by game basis.
Yeah.
Go next game. Point. It has to be a point minimum now against West Ham. And then if that doesn't happen and they still go, all right, let's keep them in for Fulham. You need a win at that point.
If we lose at West Ham,
I agree.
Does everybody sack Hecky if we lose at West Ham?
No.
I think
No.
I
If
disagree.
it's comprehensive, yes. And I don't mean by the scoreline, I mean the performance. If we're absolutely outdone on the pitch, we don't look like competing,
remember when Henderson would make a mistake and then he would just come back with that anger and that I'm gonna. That's what I want to see from the team, because that's what we were. That's what.
What manager was that under when he did that?
I think that's Henderson.
Correct,
Because
William.
you still had Egan in front of him. You still had. I think that that was Henderson's inherit, and he needs to I want to see passion. I want to see no mistakes. I don't want to see if West Ham score, I want it because they were fucking amazing, not because someone made a mistake.
I think this is the first true and probably one of the last chances, but first real test of Hecky as our manager, because the turn these sort of we obviously never got done by that, but I think back to like the Aston Villa 3-3. That were a turning point in our season, but for the better. We were 3-0 up. We came back to 3-3. We all came away from the game feeling like we'd been hammered. And Wilder came out, said, I closed the door. I let them do whatever they needed to do, whether it was scrapping, fighting, rowing, whatever it was. That team, full of leaders at that time, sorted it out between themselves and dressing room police themselves. I mean, I'm not going to go into other elements of it. Like, I don't think we've got many leaders in this side, unfortunately, which is a huge concern to me. But listen, we could go on for another hour about that. Yeah. But
the leader
Hecky, for me, this is how we react on Saturday is absolutely everything. And I think everybody's touched on that to a degree. But this is his first test. If he can turn us around and we come out and we are proud to be United fans again, like we weren't for the first time in years on Sunday, if we can go and say that's our team. We went to West Ham. We got a point. It might not be a lot to everybody. But after what happened to us the week before, we're proud. That's all we want. And then we're back.
I think we can. I really think we can. When I was at Spurs, as soon as that second goal went in, I saw McBurney. I was looking at McBurney, and he's punching the floor. He's pushing the players. Come on, what are you doing? Look, pointing at us, at the fans, saying, "Look at all them. Look at all them." This team that we've got are not just going to be bullied about. I know they're not. I know they probably went in there, and there was probably choice words thrown about all this. I know they weren't just sat there moping around. There's no way after the team we've watched after last season as well, after they know what we've been through.
McBurney's going to be a destroyer on this weekend.
He's the one to put it right.
If he were on pitch,
we missed him on Sunday.
Not just for play, just for this.
That's what it is. He's
I don't
the
think
one.
he'd have had it. I don't think he'd have took it. And
I think he needs captain's armband.
I think
Egan's not took the responsibility on, has it?
Well, that's a good point.
Since he's been a captain.
And is that weighing him down in his performances?
It looks like it, doesn't it?
On him.
I think it might be.
I mean, he's not a natural leader. McBurney's one of them that wears his heart on his sleeve. And like Billy Sharp, he's learnt from best. And he knows what this club's about and what the fans want.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Just about on-pitch leadership, do you think if Baldock and McBurney had been playing on Saturday, the result might have been different?
I think
and
so.
I'm not saying we'd have won.
Yes,
100% different.
And that tells you who should be in contention for captaincy.
Yeah. I think we show more pride if they're on pitch. I didn't think it'd take those two to have that at our club, but clearly there might be something in that because they are motivated. See George,
Basham's another one in that category.
That's right. George for me should be captain. McBurney in conversation for vice captain or even captain himself. So they encapsulate what we're about.
I think the thought of keeping Fleck. And he tried to keep Sharp as well. Is that right? He tried to keep Sharp and he kept Fleck and obviously Osborne. I think you were trying to keep them leaders in. And Osborne's probably not one, but Fleck's definitely a bit of a leader. Obviously Sharp would. I think Sharp had been done all right, not even being on pitch, just being in dressing room. It'd have been
I'm going to say,
worth signing just for that.
do we think he's a bigger loss than any of us sort of
I think
give
so.
even any
I
thoughts?
think in
on?
dressing
Purely
room, yeah.
because of behind the scenes and how he was.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's that squad registration place, though, isn't it? Because back on the forums when we were debating it, everyone was, he's a good leader, but
I want to kept him. But
maybe he's a coach, but he wants to
how
play.
desperate we were for leaders at that point, to be fair. So,
Yeah, but on the captaincy, Jim, what you risk. I'm fully on board with. I don't think Egan's captain material, but what's it going to do to him taking that captaincy off him? Is it going to put fire in his belly, or is he going to drop off at face at earth?
Might be a relief.
Might be. He might not have wanted it. But if
might give the squad the kick.
He wore it last season, didn't he, when Billy wasn't playing?
Yeah.
So
Can he do, Mike? Can he do any worse right now?
But my general view on this is you don't need to have an armband on your arm to be a captain and lead like a captain. So it's a bit symbolic.
But you can look like a bit of a knob if you're trying to be that guy. Do you know what I mean? From another player's mentally, I wouldn't want to be trying to act like a captain and overruling the captain.
A leader, I don't necessarily mean captain.
That's the thing.
Doesn't need an armband on him to be a leader.
Well, on Sunday, that's it.
A scrambling for Wilder as well, because he was a leader. I see him as more of a leader than Hecky, and that's no slight on Hecky. And it seems like I'm just kicking him all the time because this 8-0. But I think Wilder is more of a figurehead in terms of it's what I say goes, a bit of an authoritarian, whereas Hecky's more of a come on, let's all be mates, and I've got a plan for you for the next three seasons, and you're going to play 60 minutes this week, and you're going to play 30 minutes. Wilder would have been like, rip them up because we're bringing 3 strikers on now. We've got to chase this game, and we've got to do something about it. And it's just different styles, isn't it? But I'd rather go down fighting.
I agree with that authoritarian thing, but then the issues with the club and the Prince were because of that authoritarian mindset of I want my transfer policy, I want that, and that's how we nearly went into administration.
If Wilder were to come back, that would need to be a concession. He can't
that's
operate
it.
like that.
I think behind the scenes, him and Abdullah have talked, and Wilder wouldn't even be being talked about as coming back if they hadn't spoke behind the scenes.
I think so.
I wonder if that's PR work from Wilder as well. Just going back to you don't know what happened. Jimmy, sorry to put you on the spot. You're a man in the know. Have you heard anything about what's happening in the dressing room?
Sorry to put me on the spot.
Well done, Steve.
I just want to know, because if he's got information we haven't, it's unfair debate.
There's the spot. You're on it.
What was the question? Sorry, mate. Do I know
have you heard anything around the club about maybe what's going on in the dressing room? Are they like having it out? Have you heard anything?
No, I haven't, mate. I haven't. And to be fair, I probably wouldn't be able to say if I had, but I genuinely haven't. I'd have tried to find out what I was able to share and shared it by now, because I think people need to know. We are guessing to a degree.
Anyway.
Yeah, I like to try if I can, because it don't get me in trouble because I never confirmed out, but people pick it up. Anyway, either way, I don't know what the fallout is. You can imagine that nobody at the club is very happy to talk at the minute after what happened, and it's heads down and let's crack on. So I don't know is the honest answer, and I've got my own opinions on it, but that's all it is. That's all it is. I know Kane talked about, I think they'll all have been shouting and roping at each other, trying to get each other up. I don't think it will have been. I think it'll have been fairly, I'm not saying they hadn't shouted at each other and sort of put it on that they were frustrated. I don't think we've got the leaders in the dressing room, unfortunately, at the minute. And that's what frightens me. It was the downing tools that scared me more than anything. So, but like we've said, we can't, I feel these sort of sessions, and obviously I normally do it on my own or with one other person. Tonight I've got to share it with you guys, and I really appreciate it. But I find it cathartic, and I find it quite sort of, right, now I can finally put that result on Sunday. I'm not going to mention the number again. We can put that result on Sunday to bed, and we can focus, because we know Hecky's in charge for Saturday. Otherwise, a change would have been made already. So get behind him, like we all will, because as much as we think Wilder might do a better job at the minute, Hecky's still our manager, so we back Hecky, and that's what we're going to do. I'd be amazed if there weren't some changes to the team, although we haven't got a lot of options in terms of quality to bring in. I think Trusty needs to come in. I think that's an easy one to make. I think that's harsh on Jack Robinson, if I'm honest, because the way he's played this season. But you can make an argument for taking anybody out of the team after Sunday's performance. So I think we just need a spark. And listen, a left centre back into spark in a team, but it's one change of maybe 2 or 3 that could happen. So I were happy with lineup. I can't say anything. It's one thing for me to come out here and blame Hecky for, what has he done? Why is there no fight or desire? When I saw lineup, I were happy. I were all right with it because I think
we all
it's
were.
more or less the team I would have put out. So I spoke to Panchero in Triple Point beforehand, and he was saying only thing I don't like about it is the height, but I think everything else we're good to go. I think it's a decent team. So. Look, it's easy being an armchair manager in it, and I hate to, none of this is ever. I don't want anybody to ever think it's personal that anybody's got a vendetta against Hecky or anything like that. Or I'm well aware also that I am biased towards Chris Wilder. I cannot lie. I cannot say any other. And he gave me my best times as a fan, so I can't hide that fact that I would love to even capture a small percentage of what I felt back then. But it may Steve might be right. And a couple of you that think it's Wilder's not the one might be right. It might blow up in his face and we might completely
I wouldn't be averse to it. This is the thing. Like the thing I'm more worried about with any change, I do not want to become a Watford. And last time we were in the Premier League, we put our future at risk because we were trying to chase a little bit. Albeit we finished 9th, it worked out, and then we spent the money thinking we'd do all right again. But I am really worried about the long-term objective of we've just paid off our debts. I don't want a manager to come in and then try and spend money, fix this personnel problem, and then get us. That's what I'm worried about. And if Chris Wilder was to come in, man motivate, do the transfer window sensibly, and we stay up or we go down, but that financial security is there, and there's a proper long-term objective. I'm all right with that. So it's not that I'm necessarily keep Paul Heckingbottom in at all costs. That's not what it is. I just want the club to be safe for a long time.
I agree with that. And I think, to be honest, the business that we've done this summer is safeguarding the club for the future. And if we do stick to that long-term strategy, then Hecky could be the manager come what may. It might be a case of we go down with 30 points and he's still in a job come start of next season, if that's the way the board chooses to do it.
That's not what I want, but it's what I think will happen.
I don't think it happens. I think if we get turned over at West Ham at the weekend, he's gone. And I'm not saying I agree with that, although I do agree with that. But it's one of them things, isn't it? You're right, because everything is such a gamble. There's so much money at stake. Everything's a gamble. And you could bring Wilder in. He can't spend anything yet, but he might choose to spend 50 million on a croc in January. And then we're all, get Wilder out. What's he doing? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's another Ian Brewster, all this sort of thing. Ollie Burke's back, Mark II, and we're all pulling his hair out.
Well, do you know, I was going to mention that earlier. He bought Callum Robinson and Ollie Burke, the wingers, when we play a 3-5-2 system. Do you know what I mean? I just didn't get what Wilder did, and I'm afraid that in the transfer window in January, he spunks all the money on British nonsense.
I could also argue Yasser Larouci. I could argue Charlie Good.
But they're 23, mate. They're 23.
Charlie Good, isn't it?
I don't know, Jim.
Charlie Good. He was on loan, wasn't he? Yeah.
We were talking about this being the best 11 we've ever had not long ago.
Yeah, well, that's... And I think that personnel-wise, you've got to remember, we've got terrible resources.
And okay, I'll counter that with, and I do need to wrap this up at some point, but I'll counter that with... When was Wilder at his best for us when he in the transfer market?
In League One.
When he had limited resources to spend, he was at his absolute best. And I'm not saying that's the route we want to go down per se, but it's when he had money in his pocket burning a hole that we struggled because we need a striker. We need a striker. Let's get Ian Brewster, who's had one decent season in Championship with Swansea, spend 23 million on him.
At Middlesbrough, he had a bit of money to spend. And he didn't do right well there, did he? Last season.
That's my concern.
What did he spend? What did he spend, Rich?
Well,
he didn't spend anything.
Yeah, but he had a bit of money,
He sold Jed Spence for 20 million, and that he weren't allowed to spend the majority of it. He played Chuba Akpom. He signed Ryan Giles at left wing back. who went on to be a very good player for him. Signed Daryl Lenihan on a free. I think he set the table for Carrick, but I think I might have mentioned that already in this stream. So at this stage, I am repeating myself. Does anybody else listen? I'm conscious. I want to hear more from Ruben, Dave, Will, Kane. Anything you want to add, lads?
So what about? Would we all be happy if we just got Wilder in as the defensive coach instead of Hudson? With everybody
won't do it.
No, I don't think that would work.
Nah, man.
It won't happen. Oh, no,
so Steve, you made a point.
Yeah.
You made a point earlier about what would it take to change your mind for the Hecky outs.
Yeah.
What would it make to change your mind being in? What would have to happen between now and the international?
For Wilder to come in or for Hecky to go out?
Just out, not necessarily Wilder in.
So if in the next few games we don't see a change in character in the team, if silly mistakes keep happening, then a change has to be looked at. But any change that's made, I would need reassurances that the long-term objectives of the club are going to be met and we're not just going to spunk silly money chasing something. So I will change my mind if that happens. And I am on the fence about Hecky at the moment. But the only negative I've seen so far is that 8-0. And everybody's chatting very, very differently to last week.
Yeah, that's fair.
I just think there's emotion
and you're right, and you know everybody's entitled to that emotion, and I'm not saying you don't agree with that,
mate.
but it is probably an emotional reaction. But how can it not be after an 8-0?
Yeah, I think if we get something against West Ham, I think we do. Honestly, I think the players have got it in them to turn it around now. I really do.
How do you get to an FA Cup semi-final and then? Do you know what I mean? Get promoted from the Championship with a massive injury crisis without some sort of fire in your belly.
That's what it is.
Fair.
Maybe I'm just deluded, but I've watched these players. We've all seen them. Like we know they can turn around backs against the wall. We know all about that.
Yeah.
I just think, like I say, the worry was not outrunning. You know, like that's what we're about. That's what Sheffield United is. We outrun everyone. We outplay. We outfight. You know what it is. And we didn't do that. That's one thing we didn't do. You could see Heckingbottom on Sunday shouting this, that. All the players are thinking, not bothered. I'm not listening to you. And I don't think they'll do that. I think they'll have looked at the response and thought, we need to turn this round, and that is now or never essentially for Heckingbottom.
That's why it's so important on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think we'll get something. I really think we will.
If there's no response, for me, he goes. If there's a response and it's positive, we're heading and we look like we're going to compete, then we don't. Why would we sack him?
No, I agree.
And it's more of a blip, and then we start a build. We start looking at picking these points up, looking at these games we've spoken about between now and Christmas. You know, it's about the reaction for me this weekend just determines whether he goes now or
this is make or break.
Yeah,
I think
you're right as well. If it's a blip or not, if it is a blip, then it's fine.
I think it is a blip.
I think everyone's opinion on him being out will change if it is just a 8-0 blip.
No, I agree.
Jimmy, I've got a question for you.
Go on then.
If you got, so say if it all happened as you're sort of wanting it to, really, Hecky out, Wilder in. What happens if Wilder comes in and nothing changes, and we're still not picking up points, we're still down the bottom? What happens then?
Get Hecky in.
Get Hecky in.
Slav back.
Steve, we're flipping 3 or 4 pages, aren't we? Because I'm bringing Wilder in because I think he'll be a success. If he's not a success, then I'm wrong, and the Prince would be wrong for making that call. But you're never going to know till. Listen, I get the whole theory about fans don't want him back because of the history and the way he left, and fans, other people might think, yeah, do a decent job, but you should never go back to your ex, and for some reason it'd never work. And I think there's merit to both those theories, but I just think because he can hit the ground running and he can bring all the fan base together at a really low.
Do you think he would though? Do you actually think he would bring the fan base together?
One win under Wilder.
I think he's so divisive.
I agree with you, Steve, and I know what your concerns are. But if he comes in and he gets 6 or 7 points from the next 3 games, then everybody's Team Wilder again. It's all his come back, Chris. All is forgiven.
How? Just because he does a rousing speech? This is I think.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah, a little bit.
Is that it? All right.
And listen, that might be cheap to some, but I wanted Hecky to come out at the weekend and say, absolutely unacceptable. There's no way a Sheffield United team should ever put out a performance like that. He didn't. He said and I'm taking it out of context, and I don't want people to think I'm just hammering him. But it would more or less like it's a disappointing result, but we move on. No, we don't move on.
But that's where, and so we are going to lose. But he may have said something completely different to the players, and he may have been taking the rap. We're talking about Hecky now, and not the players, and that might be his device that he's used. Wilder used to do it all the time. All the best managers do. And I think it's very easy to say.
The fans
is it?
The fans deserve an explanation. I don't expect to hear what he said to players. I don't think we should have, inside access or anything like that. But he needs to acknowledge how this hurts us. And Wilder would know how it affected us. That's the difference. And I'm not saying, if Wilder weren't a blade, I might not even be making this argument. So I can't honestly say that I'm fueled with logic. But I just know how I would feel if Chris Wilder walked back through doors, and it would give me hope and optimism about the season. So it's just the way I think he could galvanise the club and the players, and that's only my opinion. It looks like we're going with Hecky, aren't we? So it's what I want to
for a bit,
we are for a bit.
No, for a bit.
What do we think we can turn it around? And I'm going to go around each to get a score prediction for Saturday. Mike, go on, mate. You first.
I want to say 1-1.
But
they've got to be changes for that to happen.
Okay. I'd be happy with a 1-1. I'd take 1-1 now if you offered me it. Dave, what are you saying, pal?
I think we can turn it around, and I'm going to be super positive and say we win 2-1. He's laughing.
I am, Dave. Sorry.
It's all right.
Come on, Mr. Mountain.
I can't listen. I've never ever done this before, but after Sunday, I'm really struggling to sit there and say we're going to beat West Ham, because I think we're just setting ourselves up. Someone will play this back to us next week when we've been absolutely destroyed. I feel like it's going to take something special. I think Hecky will go with the same team, and I think we'll lose 3 or 4. Because the fundamental problems that we've got at the back, the way that we defended was like teenagers / kids who chucked it in, right? And unless we haven't really got the personnel behind him, I think he has to make a change, but I don't think he will. I think he'll say to the lads who got whooped, other than McBurney coming in up top, he'll say, "Go on, lads, prove me wrong. Go and prove to everybody what you've got." I think we'll get opened up again, because I don't think he's a galvanizer of men. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to say I think it'll be 3 or 4-1. I can see McBurney scoring a late header and like putting his fist up to everybody else, going, "Come on, let's have a bit." But I just feel like we're going to struggle.
Do you think he gets bullet if that happens then?
Well, for me, I was in the Wilder camp at the start of this, and there's lots of people talking about 1 match and 2 matches. I was sat here going, I'd give him 8 matches. 8's the number. Like kids ripping me at school for 8 right now, and here I am going, I think I'll give him 8 matches, because at least he's got an opportunity to pick up some points in those matches against teams that we're expected to do something against. We're looking at West Ham away, who've made Europe last year, who won a trophy in Europe, and we've just been whacked 8-0, and we think we're going to win. And I'm never like this. I'm never like this with Sheffield United. But there has to be something massive happen for us to make a big change here. Like you know what it's like when you've been whooped. You've got to show a lot of character, and I'm praying they do, and I love them to. But it was 8-0, and I feel like going away to West Ham is a difficult task. And I think if we're all going to throw him under after that, he might as well go now, because I don't.
He'll get sacked. If we lose 3 or 4, he'll get sacked at weekend.
I think he will, yeah.
Rich, what's your thoughts, mate?
Other end of it, to be honest, I'm going to go super positive. I think we could probably go 1-0, 2-0.
I'd love that. Obviously, we'd all love that. That's ridiculous.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
I've only had one beer, by the way.
Some would say delusional, but I would take it all day long, mate. I would take it all day. I love that positivity. Ruben, my boy, what you saying, pal?
Yeah, I'm going positive as well. I genuinely feel that there could be a reaction.
liking
I'm gonna go 2-1. I think there's a game that I'm sort of thinking back to last year, and again it's a completely different level. But last season, after we lost to Luton at Bramall Lane, there was just there was a negative feel. Everyone, well, a lot of people anyway, thought that Middlesbrough were going to catch us at that point. Luton were going to catch us at that point. We then went a few days later, and nobody really expected anything, and beat Sunderland up at the Stadium of Light. And yeah, I'm hoping, to be honest, I'm hoping that it's a sort of
mate.
kick up the backside, and it's 3 points.
Right. So far we've got draw, win, loss, win, win. Wow. You can tell it's a Sheffield United channel, can't you? Steve, come on, mate. What's your prediction?
Right.
He's number one fan. What are you saying?
Um,
Team Hecky. Come on.
I think. Oh, this is what I hope. I'll tell you what I hope, and then I'll tell you something else. I hope he kicks their asses. He puts the fire up them, and we get a clean sheet and a 1-0 scrappy Gustavo Hamer 3-yarder in the box. However, I have just brought Jared Bowen and James Ward-Prowse into my fantasy team as an insurance policy, just in case.
Wow.
1-0.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm happy to lose fantasy points if I'm wrong.
So you're going loss, aren't you? You're going loss at West Ham.
No, 1-0 win. 1-0 win.
I thought that was your hopeful, heart-ruling head. Okay, we'll go with 1-0.
I don't watch football for logic.
You're in the right place, mate. You're in the right place. Will, what you calling, mate?
We're going to lose, I think. For me, Saturday morning, I'm going to go out. I'm going to sell whatever possessions I have and put them all on James Ward-Prowse to get at least one assist. Because I just don't see... We've conceded all these crosses, and now we're going against possibly the best set-piece taker in the league. I don't think we're going to get annihilated, but maybe like 1-2-0, maybe even 2-1. We might score. Maybe.
Okay. Josh?
3-4-0 loss.
Oh, mate.
Not
And
quite
sack.
enough.
You think they sack him then?
Yeah, and then he's gone, yeah.
And then do you bring Wilder in?
Yeah. It's all written in stars, isn't it, Jimmy?
With Warnock as his assistant.
Right.
The most motivated team ever.
Rob Coslet's first team coach. Love it. Let's get
Best
on.
substitutions we've ever had, Warnock.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that. I love them sort of tactics. Just throw everything at it. Love it.
6 strikers
No
on the
logic.
pitch at once.
It works.
Sometimes as well. Throw everything at it.
Kane, final call, mate.
Well, I said earlier, didn't I? James Ward-Prowse. That's the man who's gonna. I think the crosses. You can't ignore it. You can't ignore it though, can you? The writing's on the wall. We've been talking crosses, and then Trippier, and then Ward-Prowse. It's like, what can you do about that? However,
what a last-minute turn from you.
No. However, I'm
Go on then.
trusting that Hudson's been chucking everything at them. They've been headed away. Basham's been there going, come on, this is how you do it. Bang. I'm telling you, 2-2. 2-2. We're going to be launching the ball up to McBurney this time, not Archer. Because launching the ball long to Archer against Botman, Shah and Byrne, who would do that?
Yeah.
Who would actually do that? But McBurney's going to be winning the header. I can see us going 2-0 down. We're all throwing our arms about. 2-2, two late goals for the Blades. Hecky stays. Late promotion charge to Europe.
So that's 2 drops. If my maths are right, which they haven't been in lead up to this, so I'm not holding out much hope, but we've got 2 draws. We've got Dave with a United win, Rich with a United win, Ruben with a United win, Steve with a United win. That's 4. And we've got 3 losses with Paul, Will, and Josh. So,
Go on, Jimmy. What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Channel
Is that Alan Partridge meme? Can I shock you? I think we're going to win.
Yeah.
I honestly think after everything I've said,
Twisted it, fucking hell.
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is a twist.
Fucking hell.
Listen, I've gone back and forth throughout the stream, if I'm honest, and I'm still strong on my stance that I think Wilder's a better appointment right now, and I think he would improve if Wilder came in. I'm boxing that because he's not going to be in dugout on Saturday. I think it's now or never for Hecky, and I want to back him, and I want to say that he's going to do it. And I don't think that means he'll definitely be our manager by Christmas, because I think there's tough times ahead, if I'm honest. But I think on Saturday, then we could surprise a few people, because people are going to think, Edge will be down. But I think I'm hoping Kane's right in terms of this squad has got it in them to show that resilience and bounce back. They certainly didn't do it on the pitch. But after a week together training, if Hecky doesn't show it now, then he's never going to show it. So come on, Hecky, prove me right today. Prove a few of us right. So we're split, aren't we? That's four United, 4 West Ham,
That's
and
where
2
you went.
draws.
Yeah.
No, it's in because I could easily have said West Ham win. But
Jimmy, you always say that we're at our best where our backs are against the wall and everyone's
we
written
are,
us off.
and that plays into it, mate. I still think that, and there's not much more adversity than what faced us last weekend. Is there? The big Hecky is going to have to do
last week.
Job. Yeah, well, that goes without saying.
That's the thing, though, isn't it? If Hecky don't lift him now, he's never going to lift him.
And I think it's too big an ask, if I'm honest, and that's what I said all lead up. But I'm throwing my last bit of hope towards this. And if we get beat at West Ham, I am Hecky out from there. I don't care if it's a 1-0 off somebody's backside. If we lose again, I think we need a change. And that's nothing against Hecky. I think he's done an okay job. He's done a very good job with us. Very, very good to get us here. And I still think he's done okay with us in terms of moulding the squad and getting the teams. But how can you? Anyway, we've talked around it. We've covered everything. So thank you, lads. I think it's been as good as it could have been in terms of how many people are here. I tried to make sure everybody got the first say. Appreciate some got more than others and some didn't quite get enough. But we'll learn from this. It's his first time out. Appreciate you all taking the time to jump on the Ramble with me. Always appreciate your support. Does anybody have anything else they want to shout out before we wrap things up?
Vote for Jimmy.
Oh, yeah. It's as if I told you to say that before. No, I didn't.
Get my money later, mate.
Yeah, people can vote if they want. Anyway, it's the description down below. But yeah, if you like what we do, then please do like, comment, subscribe. But for now, come on, you red and white wizards.
All the blades.
All the blades.
All the blades.